Donald Trump is sort of the perfect straw man. I mean, everything he does, almost everything he does, is so boneheaded, so ill advised, so outrageous and ridiculous that, rightly so, voters and media are paying a lot of attention to Donald Trump. But it's really important not to let Donald Trump become a distraction from all of the terrible things that the Republican controlled Congress, both the House and Senate, have been doing since Donald Trump took office. And they've been doing some truly terrible things. Also, there have been no partisan resolutions that have passed or failed in Democrats' favor. It's been all Republicans, and almost all of the voting has been along party lines. And media has a bias to salaciousness and sensationalism, and that's reflected in the fact that really boring sounding but important legislation is being passed very quietly by Republicans, some of whom are clearly having a field day that nobody's paying attention to what they're doing. Let's look at some of the partisan resolutions that have been passed, starting by both houses, okay? These are resolutions passed already by the Republican House and Republican Senate, starting with House Joint Resolution 38 on February 2nd, passing the House 228 to 194, also passing the Senate 54 to 45. And what this did was remove some common sense Obama era regulations that prohibited the dumping of coal mining waste into public streams. Seems like an obvious thing that we would want to prevent. Republicans have done away with it, while Donald Trump has been yelling at Jim Acosta that he's very fake news. On February 3rd, we had House Joint Resolution 41, which passed 235 to 187 in the House. It passed also 52 to 47 in the Senate. And what this did was remove an SEC rule that required oil companies to report payments made to foreign governments. This was aimed at preventing corruption by energy companies, including the bribing of foreign governments, stuff that Donald Trump said he wanted to prevent. Senator Ben Cardin from Maryland said, quote, "It should be lost on no one that in less than 48 hours, the Republican-controlled Senate has confirmed the former head of ExxonMobil to serve as our Secretary of State and repealed a key anti-corruption rule that ExxonMobil erroneously fought for years." February 15th, House Joint Resolution 40, passing by 55 votes in the House, also passing the Senate 57 to 43. This removed the Obama-era rule, which required the Social Security Administration to report the names of possibly mentally disabled people to the FBI's firearm background check system. Hugely controversial. Very few people noticed that the House and Senate Republicans destroyed this. Some partisan resolutions have also passed the House, but not yet been voted on in the Senate. Just a few examples of that. We have House Resolution 7, which passed in the House 238 to 183. We did talk about this one a little bit. This was effectively a bill that would prohibit federal funding of any public or private health insurance that covers abortion. This includes Obamacare subsidies. We said before, and I'll say it again, it would disproportionately impact impoverished women, women of color. Planned Parenthood says that out-of-pocket abortions cost around $1,500. And of course, it was unnecessary because there are a number of other laws that already prevent federal funding of abortions. We have House Joint Resolution 37, which would remove 14 major workplace rules for federal contractors involving safety, health, wages, disability, civil rights. I mean, who needs that stuff, right? And also House Joint Resolution 36, which would remove Bureau of Land Management rules reducing methane waste from oil and gas drilling on public lands. Bye-bye, environment. A couple of others, including House Joint Resolution 57, which would rescind Department of Education accountability rules, requiring localities to report K through 12 data to furthering equality and in education and fighting the discrimination of historically marginalized students. That's right, it's not just Betsy DeVos we have to worry about. And we can go on and on. I mean, there's House Resolution 66 and 67, which would erase a Department of Labor program that helps private sector employees save for retirement. We have House Joint Resolution 42, which would remove restrictions on drug testing for federal unemployment benefits, big government. And don't forget, it's also been the Senate that's been approving all of these atrocious Trump nominees. This is why, Pat, in the midst of Trump, we have to keep pushing on 2017, 2018, the census. We've got an upcoming long form piece and interview about gerrymandering. There's a lot to do and a lot going on beyond just Trump.
This is a big deal because Republicans are going to have control over both houses of Congress, at least for the next 2 years and probably even after that, too. And while Donald Trump's cabinet picks and some of the media circus events he's creating is causing a big stir, we have to look into the more things in policy where people don't really want to get to the weeds as much. But it's just as important, if not more important.
The names for these bills are so long and boring that it's hard to even get people to stay tuned in just after reading the name of it. If I read the full names of some of these bills, people would already start tuning out. So yes, Donald Trump is serving as the perfect straw man for the Republican-controlled House and Senate, and we're going to keep on it the way we have been.